Hello and welcome to this session in conversation with Christian Vestre, the CEO of Vestre, and Viktoria Millentrup, an architect at BIG or Bjarke Ingels Group. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here. If this is your first time joining us at the Festival of Place, I am your, I'm just being told I'm not on camera, so I'm just checking. Can you guys see me? Thumbs up if you can see me. You can't see me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it's always good when things work. Can you see me now? Thumbs up. Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Okay, we're going to try that again. Welcome to the Festival of Place. You have found the emojis, so do use them throughout the session to tell us you're there. I'm the director of the Festival of Place and the editor-in-chief of The Developer, and welcome to this session in conversation with Christian Vestre, CEO of Vestre, and Viktoria Millentrup, architect at BIG, Bjarke Ingels Group. If this is your first time joining us, a quick tour, emojis are below us, and then way over on the far panel, over the session description, you will find the attendee list. You can see who's here, and then the chat. Do participate in the chat. That's where you can share resources, links to other projects, comment on what's going on. Below that, you'll find a speech bubble with a question. We will be taking questions about halfway through the session, so you can start putting your questions in. You need to select the session, so scroll down past lots of events, select into In Conversation, and then you can post your question there. We'll be picking them up. And that's about it. I am now going to hand over. I want to thank you both for being here today, first of all, and I'm super interested to hear all about this amazing factory and project.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Sharing my screen.
Yes. So I think it's really good for you to kick off and tell us about this project, where it came from, and then I know Viktoria, you're gonna show us a little bit of it. So maybe, Christian, can we hear a little bit about you and Vestre and your idea?
Yes, Christian, and thank you so much for inviting us both. We have been looking so much forward to this conversation and this presentation, and to invite you into our world and tell you more about how we are planning, or not even planning now, because we're actually building this beautiful factory right now as we speak, the most environmentally friendly furniture factory in the world, and I guess the most transparent and most democratic factory in the world as well. And the collaboration between BIG and Vestre has been a privilege, and I really look forward to tell you more about it and kind of invite you behind the scenes, and also go through the process together with you. So just a few facts and some background information about the company first. So Vestre was established back in 1947. By my grandfather, actually. He's second to the right there in this picture, and together with his friends, they established this small mechanical workshop in an old German barrack in Norway, Haugesund, this west coast city, in 1947, with the motto, or the word, "Everything is possible for the Lord Almighty and a mechanic." And it started simply small mechanical products turned into playground equipment, park benches, exercise machines. They even invented a fully automatic fish cake making machine, and that machine could produce 3,500 fish cakes an hour. And I could tell you that that was a revolution in the 50s when Vestre invented that fish cake making machine. But now, 73 years later, we don't make fish cake machines anymore, but we have become one of Europe's leading supplier of social furniture. And believe it or not, but our mission is actually not to sell as many benches and chairs as possible. Our mission at Vestre is to change the world one neighborhood at a time. And you might wonder what that means, a company saying that we are not aiming to sell as many products as possible. That might sound a bit weird, but I would like to tell you why this is so important to us. So the world today, as we all know, is getting more and more polarized. We see tendencies towards more conflicts, less cohesion. more antagonism, less trust between people. We do see a development in some countries, in some cities, where people are actually putting other people in different categories, like us and them, instead of talking as people as we. We never think it's a good idea to categorize people as us and them. We do know too well from our own world history what those ideals and ideologies might lead to. So we believe that we all have responsibility to bring down barriers between people, to create caring meeting places around the world where actually people can meet, talk to each other, share ideas, share life stories, get to know each other, discuss things, because when we discuss things, when we share life experience and ideas together, we create this bigger picture of a broader we, and we also develop more trust, more cohesion, and more togetherness in our society. So that's our target, actually. We want to change the world one neighborhood at a time by bringing people together. And bringing people together and creating those social meeting places or arenas for everyday democracy, as we call them, is of course a bit complicated and challenging now during the pandemic, because people should not come too close together. But we believe in the future post COVID-19, and I do believe that the need for social meeting places where people can interact with each other will be more important than ever before. So that's what the company is all about. We have big ambitions. We are growing fast in Europe and in US. We bring not only Nordic design, but also this Nordic approach to a democratic city development. Friends, we have a phrase or a word here in Norway called allemannsretten. It basically means the freedom to roam or right to public access. And allemannsretten and this freedom to roam is not only protected by law, it's also a very important part of our cultural DNA here in Norway. And it basically means that the outdoors belong to everyone. So this is values and ideologies and ideas that we want to spread to the world. And that is also why we at Vestre always and without exceptions refuse to do so-called hostile design. You know, for instance, benches with those tiny spikes or other obstacles designed to keep homeless people away from our streets. And that's simply because we believe that if we have created a society where people cannot afford a proper place to live, that's something that must be dealt with by social reforms, by political reforms. It's not something we can solve by adding more spikes to our democratic cities. So we simply don't want to make money on things that are wrong, and hostile design is never right. So we refuse to do those projects. And I'm very proud that those values are so important to this company, simply because, again, we have to solve the problems by political reforms. It's not my job as a Norwegian furniture manufacturer to bring in installations in our cities created to keep the weakest members of our societies away from our streets. So we simply don't do that. And we also aim to be recognized as the most sustainable furniture brand in the world. Meaning we have integrated 9 out of the 17 sustainable development goals into our business strategy. We make products with a long lifespan. Actually, all our products are delivered with a lifetime guarantee. We have something we call Vestre Vision Zero, meaning we will not make a single product that is not intended to last forever. And we believe that's possible through proper maintenance, by choosing quality, and by giving people the opportunity to send old furniture back to our factory, have it refurbished, and then breathe new life into the furniture. So we base all our manufacturing in Scandinavia on 100% renewable energy. Our factories are self-sufficient by renewable energy. We use the greenest steel in the world with 30% less emissions than the global average. We use recycled aluminum with 8 times less emissions compared to the global average. Wood from Norwegian forests claimed to be the most sustainable forestry in the world, according to the United Nations. And we donate 10% of our net income every year to finance external sustainability projects around the world, meaning education, women health, clean water, and a lot of other projects, just because we want to contribute to a more fair, more decent, a better, more sustainable world. And we believe as a company, we are not only responsible to make sure that we are profitable, to be able to create jobs and pay taxes and invest in new technology. Our responsibility is much bigger than that. We also want to contribute to a better world, and we will encourage more companies to be part of this global movement for change. So when we called then Big 1.5 years ago, that was an invitation to them. We asked them, do you want to create an entirely new typology together with us? Do you want to be part of this project where we will design and construct the most environmentally friendly furniture factory in the world? And they instantly said yes. They put their best people on the team, including Viktoria Millentrup, who is the design lead architect and project manager of this project. I would say one of the most talented architects in the world, actually. And thanks to her, we have created something extremely extraordinary. So it's a great privilege for me now to let you get to know Viktoria and introduce her to you so she can take you through the project. Thank you so far.
Thanks. So, as you already know from Jan Christian, I'm the project architect, and basically when this project started, or like when I was called, I was just finishing school, and I went back to Big after an internship and finishing school, and I started this project as a freshly baked architect. So he came with a lot of ambitions, and that was great. And I mean, it's a big thing for us at Big to meet Jan Christian, because it's basically he's emerged for us out of Greta Thunberg and Elon Musk, bringing technology and sustainability together and creating a very social and democratic place as a factory. And basically, like tackling the climate crisis, and during a pandemic, he basically wants to show, or we want to show, that it's possible to build the most environmentally friendly factory in the world. And this factory will also be the first one to reach the highest certification in BREEAM, which is the sustainability certificate. And this factory will be reducing the emissions by over 50% and is therefore more than Paris proof already now. When he came to us, also Bjarke got quite excited. Probably you know more of him than of me, but basically I'm one of the 300 employees here in Copenhagen, and we work very closely together. And basically together with him and Jan Christian, we formed the goal to have like a new typology of factory, basically bringing people, production, technology, and nature together to integrate into one typology. Our goals was also to basically erase the old image of what we know what we see basically when we think about the word factory. We think about of something dirty, something sealed, you cannot look inside of it, something very hostile. But we want to basically erase all the fences and lock doors and invite people in and make the production and manufacturing very transparent and green and democratic, as Jan Christian asked us to do. And basically at Big, it's not only me, of course, leading this project. It's a lot of people behind this. It's a huge team of very talented people. We have in-house engineers. We have Big Ideas, which is our sustainability and computational department. And we have Big Landscape, which is basically the landscape department here at Big. This is the team right now. It changed over time because basically each phase is asking for different specialities. But this is the team right now. You see basically Bjarke and the partners and all the team underneath. I was starting the project last year, so it's already 1 year ago, and I'm one of the members that stayed permanently in this team. And we are also from very different countries. There are, of course, some Danes because we're in Denmark, but otherwise we're pretty mixed, which is quite cool. And this is one of our team pictures celebrating that we could actually publish the project, and we were very proud of it because we had also a lot of ups and downs, which I come to later. Because I don't only want to talk about the polish process, because this is what we always see in the end of the presentation. We also went through cost cuttings, and also, of course, the pandemic. And basically, we worked as a team very strongly together to finish this and actually start building right now. So the site is being prepared, and we're very proud that we're basically starting now. To introduce the project, we are in Scandinavia, and more specifically, we are in Norway. We are right at the border of Sweden, and we're very close to the actually existing steel factory of Vestre. So actually, all the logistic traffic doesn't have to go far. They're all close by each other, and also close to the headquarters of Vestre in Oslo itself, which is like 1.5 hours away. This is our site. We had in the beginning the benefit to actually choose the site. Jan Christian took us to Norway, showed us a lot of different sites that were potentially good for a factory. And we actually all chose together this forest, which is a 300,000 square meters Pinus sylvestris forest. And it's actually a productive forest. It's not virgin land. It's a forest that is being harvested from time to time. These trees are right now about 23 meters tall. And here you can see a little bit of the surroundings and the forest. And the municipality actually planned to basically make a massive industrial development there and cut all the trees off. But then along came the plus, and we decided with a minimal footprint actually that we don't cut away so many trees, and that the forest will be preserved and turned into a wild forest again. To go to the program actually that Jan Christian gave to us, it's basically out of a warehouse, a color factory, and a wood factory, and assembly, and office and exhibition. This was basically the program brief. And we had to bring this together to basically fulfill the requirements that he asked us for. And basically, the factory itself, the architecture turned from the logistic diagram into this shape of a plus, because we arrange each production hall radially around each other to have the direct connection to each other. Each factory wing has a MEP corridor, which is feeding the factory with all technical equipment. And each wing can therefore also be extended if necessary in the future. Here you can see basically inside of one of those wings. And I go a little bit more into detail about the colors and also the materiality later. We have a production flow that we need to follow. So basically, the products come in to the warehouse, and if we go the way around, that we follow the path of the wood for the manufacturing process. The wood will be delivered to the warehouse. It will be brought into the wood factory, being cut into shape, and then going into the assembly to wait there to be assembled to a finished product. The same goes for basically the steel parts. The steel parts come from the factory in Torsby, and they're going to be delivered into the warehouse. They're going to be stored there. They will go through a whole process of color coding, and then go back into the assembly to be assembled to a finished product. And all products that will leave this factory will be actually circular. So even if they're only being refurbished or new, all of the products will be sustainable. Because we have inside an assembly line, and then also forklifts that need to move around through all different wings, we actually introduced a roundabout, which is bringing all logistic access into basically this central space. You can see the central space and all the colors, and we actually used also this courtyard, this open space, for the Vestre exhibition, because of course we are talking about outdoor furniture, so it would be actually great to always have the latest furniture exhibition in the center of the plus, being reachable from the outside through this stair leading to the roof. You can see here now that we also have to place the office floor and the exhibition center. And of course, they shouldn't interfere the production. So we placed it actually on top to be able for this exhibition center to overlook the production, but not to interfere it. We lift one corner of each factory wing to reach the height of this office floor. And basically each wing will not be separated anymore. Each wing will basically rest on each other and be one integrated structure instead of four singular basically halls that are just arrayed around each other. Here you can see the office space inside of it looking into the courtyard, and you can also see that we can still have a view into the forest, but also into the factory. That was basically the concept from the beginning. That's why we only lift one corner of each hall, because then we are able to watch through one triangle the forest and through the other one each factory wing. And it's basically one panopticon looking into the forest and into all the wings. Here you can see a little bit how you can actually look into the factory wing, and then in the back you can see also that there's still the triangle left to basically look into the crowns of the forest. A little bit about the structure. We're using cross-laminated wood, and it's locally sourced and sustainable. And in this diagram, you can basically see that we have cross-braced those MEP corridors that I was talking about before, which makes the construction of this very long span more simple for us. The center is basically a semi-reciprocal structure resting on each other and leaning into those four wings. And then we have basically a continuous roof beam that is also continuing the facade line up to give this impression of a fanning or like twisting rotation. Here you can see a little bit of those beams actually coming up and resting on each other, and you can enter this roof terrace, which I go also through later, because you should actually from like 24/7 you should be able to look inside of the factory, see the production, and even if there's no production going on, you can look into the exhibition and look into the factory and explore everything around it. As I said already, the center is actually cut out, so we have this exhibition courtyard, which is also green. And because we are sealing the forest floor, at least at the minimal space that we have to take over for the factory footprint, we like to lift this forest floor and bring it back onto the green roof to replicate basically the forest floor up there. We have then the opportunity to actually go up to the roof. We have two ramps on each side that are leading up to the roof directly. And this goes along the wood factory and the color factory. So you go basically along the facade and look into the process. But you also have like this meandering lifted path going up to the very top, which is also making sure that we have handicap accessibility. You can see a little bit of the site plan. So we're placing the plus quite close to the border of this main street. Our neighbor is another factory which is producing aluminium extrusions. And basically, we are all surrounded by forest, and we created these pathways that are looping around the site itself, but also back to Magnor, the town, to make a sort of hiking path for everybody to explore the site and to explore the art installations, poetry, furniture, and a lot of other exciting things in this forest. You can see here basically the logistic entrance. Probably Jan Christian can say a little bit more about the trucks. I'm not a complete expert, but there are going to be electric trucks going from A to B. There are Tesla semi-trucks, and you can see a little bit of this lifted path here on the side, and also some unique created Vestre furniture that will be placed in this forest. Everything is accessible for everyone at any time, so it's also Vestre's motto to go for that nature actually belongs to everyone. That's why you can camp and share the whole site, and there will be no fences, and you can actually explore everything at all times. You can see here the ramp on the side leading up to the roof, and you can see actually inside the factory. We have this bridge leading back over the river to Magnor, so we're actually looping the whole path back to the village that is close by, which wasn't possible before. And this bridge will be an extruded Vestre furniture piece again. So all the furniture pieces that you can find in the forest are basically like a new version of those furniture pieces, scaled up or twisted or even rotated. A little bit to see inside the factory, maybe that's interesting to see that we actually have this logistic access from two sides. So two streets are leading into the forest with trucks, and the whole pathway will not cross them. So you will always lead over the roof to continue to the rest of the forest. You can see the blue part is basically the warehouse. You have a lot of storage places, and then in the warehouse we have the assembly line starting where all the metal pieces will be hung onto, and then they go through a process of cleaning and drying, and basically being powder coated with a robotic arm, and then going into the curing process, and then out as the colorful pieces along the facade where everybody sees them, and then going into the assembly part where they be assembled to furniture. If we follow the wood, the wood is being stored, and forklifts will pick it up. The forklifts can go all around this roundabout, also to the other parts of the factory, but they bring the wood basically in. It will be stored here, then it will be CNC milled and cut into the shape, stored again, and then being assembled in the assembly part. And from the assembly hall, the pieces will be ready-made and picked up and brought into the world with those Tesla trucks. If I forget something, Jan Christian, you have to shout. So
yeah, that was a great presentation. I could just add that the project is not only spectacular and innovative in terms of architecture, sustainability, construction methods, building materials, and all those ideas, but it's also radical new in terms of manufacturing itself, because we are introducing a lot of Industry 4.0 tech solutions here. So the robots you mentioned, for instance, are self-teaching. They use artificial intelligence. We use virtual reality. The entire factory can actually be operated through a single iPad or a tablet. We will generate a lot of data, big data information, because all machines are connected in the cloud solutions. So we can use that big data to to improve our performance and stuff like that. So, and I mean, this is actually the future of manufacturing in a high-cost country, whether it's UK, whether it's Norway, whether it's Germany. This is how we can compete on a global market, as by bringing in such technologies and combine it with the compromise approach to never compromise on sustainability. I think the combination of those is actually the future of sustainable manufacturing. Which makes it even more difficult for you guys at Big, of course, because one thing is to design a beautifully designed factory, but here you also have to take into consideration all the internal manufacturing and production flow and what's needed to actually be able to produce as fast as green as we want to.
Yeah, that's to say, I mean, we work closely with all the people that actually were designing the factory flow. So this is not, of course, coming from us. The whole production of the color factory and how the wood processing works was closely designed with our consultants. So we learned a lot in the process as well, and we had to learn what goes where at which time and what needs access to actually come up with this shape. So we didn't come up right away with the shape, but we went there pretty fast after some tests. To show a little bit of the office floor, so you can see that there's actually a very free space office, and it changed a little bit over time, but the concept is still the same. So we have basically a dining part and an exhibition part and an open office with meeting rooms inside the space. The thing that changed is actually that those closed boxes that you can see here now, they moved into a part of the MEP corridor because it was possible after some changes of the geometry, which was pretty nice. You can see also that we have solar panels on the roof, and basically the whole factory is running on 100% renewable energy, not only through basically the solar panels, but also like the geothermal wells and other things.
And I can add that in combination, all those measures actually mean that we will reduce our need for delivered energy by more than 90%. So one thing is that the factory itself is Paris-proof. We are reducing our CO2 emissions by more than 55% compared to a similar new factory building, but we are also at the same time reducing the energy need by 90%. So, I mean, we are more or less self-sufficient, which is super cool as well.
Yes. And then maybe you can continue also with the water.
Yeah, water is really important, and even though we have enough water in Norway, we should still think about what we use the water for. So we will reuse up to 95% of our process water. We will reduce the need for chemicals, and we are replacing old chemicals by more eco-friendly alternatives. So it's a combination of energy and water treatment, and we will combine this in the Vestre Energy Center and the Vestre Water Treatment Center, where actually people, even young people from 10 years old, can visit our factory and learn more about how we produce energy, how we can reuse energy, and how we can make sure that we don't waste water, and that we don't, because again, it's not only factory, it's also this exhibition experience where we want to bridge the gap between a young generation of climate activists and other people concerned about the economy, concerned about how we are able to create new jobs. And we want to bridge that gap by showing that the industry is not part of the problem. The industry, the manufacturing industry, can actually provide the solutions we need in the future. But that's why it's so important for us to be democratic and to share all those ideas and all those facts so that others can implement it and others can learn from us, even our competitors. I mean, we share openly with everyone interested to learn more about sustainable manufacturing.
Woo! Okay. We had, in the process of designing this factory, a little bit of an issue. Of course, we have the plus, and it's symmetric, and in the space, if you're in a symmetric space, and also in a forest, it's very hard to orient. So actually coming up with this color code for all the machinery helps a lot to orient inside the space and to also decode which every piece of machinery actually is meant to do. So everyone that is coming to the visitor center can look at the color and get the explanation right away. Okay, if you look at the green part, you have the big CNC, for instance. And then it was actually nice to bring all this machinery into a color code. We were thinking about having this factory not only as this like gray boxes where you cannot look inside. We had discussions with a lot of suppliers that we can actually bring a lot of transparency also into the machinery, so people can view from everywhere what's actually going on inside where it's possible. And as I said, to see which color means which piece of machinery. This color meets basically in the roundabout in the middle, and it also leads up again to the roof through a stair that is inside this inner courtyard. So this inner courtyard can actually also be visited 24/7, and this stair on top will lead back into this monkey trail, this lifted path in the forest that can lead all people up, even handicapped, to the roof. Here you can see a little bit of this lifted path. That was one of the first renderings we did. So now the construction looks a little bit different because we cannot use the trees, so not all our wishes always come true. But we managed, and we are in the process of actually finalizing those drawings right now. To come a little bit to the materiality of the facade, it was our wish to use something, of course, because of also the BREEAM certificates, that would not use any toxins or any added color or a lot of maintenance over the years. So we decided for burnt wood, which actually seals the surface to protect itself from rain and wind and any other environmental issues. Then we have basically a contrast inside of the factory. We have this very light blonde wood, which is the glulam timber. And right now, this glulam timber, if you want to know some dimensions, it's actually 180 tall, so it's a little bit taller than me, and 25 centimeters wide, so it's actually a massive piece of wood. We can't wait to see actually to be put up on site, which will be pretty epic probably. You can see a little bit of our process of how we design different details. So you can see part of the ramp. We have this ramp outside, but we also have this ramp inside. So every worker can actually go up this ramp and go to the office floor inside of it. And the outside is basically this burned wood. And then the inside you can see is this blonde wood. You can see on top of the green roof. Yes, that's kind of the same, and you can see the inner courtyard. We're kind of detailing right now this inner stair and where it's connected to and what it's standing on, and we also wish to have this 200 colors of Vestre continue into the stair going up and leading into the monkey trail. We have the facade panels divided into 1 meter facade modules to bring into a very, very horizontal building, kind of like a one-story building, this verticality back. And it's also chosen because it's matching the steps that match the ramp to lead up to the roof with the right inclination. You can see basically our rendering for the whole factory in the forest, and you can also see the solar panels on top and the monkey trail going up, leading into this roof terrace, where there hopefully soon will be a lot of parties in the summer if COVID-19 allows.
I just have to say, Victoria, that is one of the best parts of the project, as I see it. I mean, I can't imagine anything more romantic actually than that roof terrace. You know, enjoying beautiful, spectacular architecture, the beautiful landscape, standing atop the most environmentally friendly furniture factory in the world, kissing a special someone. I mean, come on, friends, please, you should all come to the Plus and invite someone that means a lot to you, because this will not only be the most environmentally friendly and most transparent factory in the world, I can promise you it's the most romantic factory in the world as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and Christian and Victoria, there's some questions building up, so I've just jumped in to kind of put some of them to you. But one of them was is a question around noise within the factory. So the trees and everything experience a lot of well-being. I mean, the factory, my impression is a lot of it is automated, but how do you deal with noise and worker health and well-being within that space?
Sorry, but I had a bad connection. Can you please repeat? I heard something
Sure.
about noise.
Yes, is noise within the factory can be an issue just in terms of worker well-being? Is it a very noisy? There's a question here about the noise environment within the factory and how you deal with that.
Yeah, that's a very clever question. There are some noisy machines, but not something extraordinary. And we are doing some radical measures. For instance, the fact that the building is based on glulam and CLT means a lot for acoustics, in fact. So that's a very efficient measure. And since the factory should be so, not only, I mean, it should be a nice workspace for our own workers, but also a nice place to be for the public and for all our guests. I mean, we are planning to invite thousands of people to come visit the manufacturing a year, and we want them to be able to come really close to the machinery to kind of get inspired by the machines and really get to know how all this works out. So we have challenged the manufacturer of the machines actually to install better noise reduction measures and built-in solutions and stuff like that, to be able to let people come even closer to the machines.
Yeah, and Christian, I know at Vestre you have a mission statement to reduce your carbon. I think it's by 10% every year. You're building this factory. Will you continue to hit that 10% target afterwards?
Yes. And I mean, the company, the Vestre Group, has been carbon neutral for 10 years now. But what I'm most proud of is actually that we are growing the company by, I guess, 20% a year. And at the same time, while growing the company 20% a year, we're actually reducing our emissions by 10% a year. So what we have been able to do now is to decouple growth. You can call it economic growth from emissions, and that is extremely important if you want to create a more sustainable future. I strongly believe in green growth. I think it is possible to create millions of new profitable, enjoyable, great jobs, and at the same time meet our climate responsibilities to actually solve the climate crisis, stop the loss of nature and biodiversity. So we do need to do both, and to be able to do both, we have to decouple growth from emissions, and that's basically what we are doing. But I can tell you it is difficult because, as Victoria said, our manufacturing is already based on 100% renewable energy. We do use the greenest possible materials in the world. So I would say in our industry, and that's not only something I'm saying, if you ask climate activists and the NGOs here in the Nordic countries, they will actually say that Vestre is actually leading the way in our industry. But it is hard for us now to improve further since we have already done so many measures. But building the Plus will be a really important contribution to be able to reach what we aim to, and that is to be recognized as the most sustainable furniture brand in the world, because this is the world's most environmentally friendly furniture factory in the world. It's not just something we're making a statement out of or anything. That's something we can verify by and document, and everything is available on our web, theplus.no. There you can find all information about the measures we're doing and how we actually reach those huge reductions in CO2 emissions. But I mean, sorry, but I just have to say one thing. I care a lot about the environment. Before I came into the company here, I was actually doing politics. I was a political activist. I was part of NGOs caring about the environment. So this is extremely important to me. And since I'm also the owner of Vestre together with my family, that's a good thing by having a family-owned company, is that we can use that company for a certain purpose. And we have made it very clear that our target, our goal is not to become rich. It's not to become famous. I don't want to be on any Forbes list or anything like that. Our target, our goal is to use Vestre as a tool to change the world. And we can do that by two things: by bringing people together, as I said, and change the world one neighborhood at a time, creating those arenas for everyday democracy, social meeting places, less polarized debate, more inclusion, everything we talked about earlier previously today. That's one thing we can do. The other thing we can do is, again, to bridge the gap between climate activists and people concerned about jobs. And if we can show to the world and verify and prove to the world that this is actually possible to do in a small country called Norway in the middle of the productive forest, I mean, if we can do it, so everyone else can do it. So I'm not that naive that I think that we can actually change the world by building this factory alone. But I mean, the value of this factory, when we have shown to the world that it is actually possible to do it, and when other people start thinking like this, then we can create a global movement for change. And that is what we need today, because there is way too much talk about sustainability. I'm sick and tired of all those talks all the time. We need more action. We need real action. It's not that difficult to do it. So, I mean, if we just, work together now and stop talking and start doing stuff and unleash the best of our creative abilities and work together within industries, but also between industries and across countries, I mean, we can solve this together.
What you're saying it sounds impossible to so many people that I think the education portion of this project is really, really important in getting that message out. I wanted to drill down a bit and ask you about things like steel, which are in your furniture. I mean, you're building it to last. It's not built to biodegrade after a few years. I mean, it's street furniture. It's got to be hard wearing. It's got to sustain itself through lots of weather. But how do you get to a point where steel is sustainable, and how much it's offsetting a part of your neutrality? And can you talk a little bit about good offsetting and, greenwash offsetting?
Yeah, offsetting is part of the carbon mechanism defined by United Nations and EU. So I'm not saying that that's the solution, because it's not. The solution is to reduce our own emissions. And that's why I'm saying it's so important that we do both. We have to decouple growth from emissions. We have to reduce our emissions every year, and we do that. But it helps also to offset, because we are actually financing climate measures in other countries. For instance, planting forest is one of the most effective things you can do to store carbon in the nature. So I think it is possible to do both. But if we just believe in offsetting and don't do anything to improve our own behavior, then I think you can start talking about greenwashing. The first thing you asked about is an obvious thing, of course, because the steel industry in the world today accounts for, I think, between 7 and 9% of the global emissions. So the steel industry is actually part of the problem. But there is two things we can do. We can choose to buy the greenest steel possible on the market, available on the market, and that's what I told you about this Swedish steel we use, with 30% less emissions than the world average. It is more expensive to buy. So if I only cared about profit and, to increase my bottom line and to give a shit about the nature as long as we're profitable, I could have chosen to buy less expensive, cheaper steel from Eastern Europe, from China or whatever, and saved money. But that would have mean that our products came with more emissions. So I think as a company, we do have choices. We can choose to go green or not. So we are doing that. And I'm very optimistic, because I believe that technology can solve most of our problems. So let me just give you one example. The company SSAB from Sweden, which we currently buy steel from, they have invented a new type of steel now, meaning they will remove the coal from the process and replace coal by hydrogen. It's called that new steel. It's called hybrid, and this steel will be delivered on market in 5 years from now. And you can imagine who's the first company in the world to have an order confirmation saying that we have bought the first batch of that steel. Yes, that's basically Vestre. So I mean, again, it's about choice. The choices we can choose the greenest possible materials available right now, and we can push the steel industry in the right direction by encouraging them to invent cleaner steel, greener steel, and steel without any emissions. And 5 years from now, we will have that kind of steel. Aluminum goes for the same. For instance, aluminum is not aluminum. You can buy aluminum from China, for instance. It's 15 times higher CO2 emissions compared to aluminum from Norway, because in Norway we manufacture aluminum based on hydropower, for instance, and the aluminum we use is 75% post-consumer scrap. I mean, recycled aluminum. So it's not black or white. It's not everything or nothing. It is to find the way forward, so that we improve our performance every year.
Viktoria, I want to ask you, you said you were kind of a freshly baked architect when you came onto this. Did you know about how to create a net zero factory, about materials, or have you learned a lot on this project? And do you have any advice for architects out there who are looking to educate themselves about these the way of structuring building?
I think coming from, I studied at the KDK here in Denmark. So we had a lot of our curriculum already based on the UN goals. So we knew about the whole sustainability part. But when I came to BIG and then got this project, basically, I had zero idea of what this will turn into and what I have to know but it's basically that we bring so many people together that have actually the knowledge that you can go anywhere in this office to ask and bring people in, and then it's working very well, actually. So I was not alone. So you can have a very young architect because you have so many people behind you supporting you. And I also have to say that it's basically not only our accomplishment, but it's the accomplishment to work so closely with the client and with Jan Christian together. I mean, wouldn't it be such a great mix out of basically the two of us? It would be not possible to do it because so many things are dependent on the client and what they want as well. I mean, in the end, of course, we can push and dream, but it was possible because both sides wanted the same thing. So I learned actually a lot during the process, and there were ups and downs, and there's a lot of things about BREEAM that I know now that I didn't know before. And building in a forest, so it was great, and the next sustainable project can come, I guess.
And we didn't know about the pandemic either.
Oh, we've lost your connection, Jan Christian. Oh, there, you're back. Okay, good. There's a couple of questions here. I'm going to put them together. They're all about the forest, interestingly enough. So one is the forest used, or is the planting used to help in the water recycling? Also, there's a question here, given the forest fires in recent years, how have you dealt with fire risk? And the third question is the tree in the middle of the factory a retained or a planted tree?
I can say the middle part. That's we wished in the beginning that it would be one of the forest trees. But during the process, we figured out like it wouldn't be possible, and it was also then agreed that this part in the center is not part of the forest. It's actually, like a cityscape. It's like what Vestre is designing for is not especially forest benches, right? We are in a cityscape, so it's basically what's representing this little part of a cityscape. Yeah,
it's an urban tree in the middle.
Urban.
So the other two are forest fire and using the landscape for grey matter recycling. And I'm going to throw in, there's also a question about the green roof. Is it just sedum, or is it more biodiverse? Is biodiversity on your your dance card, so to speak.
I can say that we have more than sedum, and it was actually Jan Christian who was pushing hard for it, and our landscape architects were actually very happy about it. So yeah, it's more than sedum build-up, and we basically also try to replicate the forest floor, so it would not be alien to the forest. It would actually be plants that we can find in the forest floor and bring back to the roof. Yeah. So not to start from scratch. Yeah. And the other ones are for you.
Yeah, we do have ecologists and other professionals on the team as well. So because the main thing here is not only to save as many trees as possible, as Victoria said, it's a productive forest. So in a few years from now, everything would have been cut down and then replanted. But it's not so much diversity in this forest since they're doing maintenance here. So what we are doing now is actually stopping doing maintenance so that nature will develop on nature's own premises from now on. So we are doing a lot of measures, as Victoria said. For instance, the roof, we cover them with vegetation corresponding as closely as possible to what's surrounding the factory already. We will introduce new species, but I mean Norwegian species, and don't do any more maintenance, as I said, and stuff like that. So we actually got as many BREEAM points as possible because of biodiversity and the eco-friendliness. And I have to say that, remember that, yes, we do meet the strictest requirements for BREEAM Outstanding, and this is the first ever furniture factory that actually meets the BREEAM Outstanding. It's the first ever industrial project in the Nordics to reach BREEAM Outstanding. We don't even have a BREEAM Excellent project here in the Nordics. So this project is actually leading the way. And then I don't want to answer the question about because it's a really clever question about fire risks, and that is something that's an ongoing discussion with the local fire department now, because as some of the very intelligent audience have already discovered, there is a challenge, of course, building in a factory in the forest, and the fact that we want to keep the offset as close as possible. So we do have like trees 5 meters from our facades. So it is a discussion ongoing now with the fire department how we can solve it. But I know for sure that there are things we can do, and that's most about surveillance. I mean, we don't want to put up any surveillance cameras here, no fences, no closed off area, because this is a tribute to the freedom to roam, the allemannsretten, and we don't want it to look hostile. It should be open and democratic, but still we have to find a balance. And I think we can bring in some technology that will if something happens, if a fire starts, or if there is anything, I do think we can bring in technology that could send a signal to the fire department right away, so that we can prevent anything further from happening. But we haven't solved this. We haven't solved this yet. And water treatment is part of
and Christian, we have 1 minute left, but I really want to put this question to you from Rachel Miller. You talked about how the company is growing, but your carbon is going down, which is a huge achievement, and the idea of achieving growth. She asks, how highly do you find that the purchasers of your product value your sustainability credentials, and does the cost of sustainability match up with the increase in sales or price of your
question? And we only have 1 minute, and it's a very clever question. I hope we can come back to this and discuss it later, because this is one thing I care a lot about. To be honest, I was hoping that the customers, if they're private customers, public customers, should have been more aware of this, and I want them to demand more from not only us, but also more from our competitors and the industry overall, because I don't think they are ambitious enough. I don't think so. I mean, in some projects, we are actually pushing the sustainability measures and the fact that we want them to ask us about sustainability. I mean, for instance, let me give you one example. We are always asked to provide the customers with a purchasing price. So they do want to know the price. But why do they never ask us what this project and this product actually costs after 10 to 15 years? Because that's life cycle economy. And you can probably save, let's say, 50 pounds, sterling pounds, or $50, or maybe even $100 if you compare Vestre to a cheaper alternative. But that product you compare Vestre with doesn't come with a lifetime guarantee. I mean, if you travel around Norway, you will find Vestre furniture from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s still out there being enjoyed. So, I mean, you can pay maybe a bit more when you actually purchase the product, but after all, it's the cheapest alternative, and I can go into any debate worldwide about this thing, because I know we are the cheapest supplier globally if you take quality into consideration. But we have to let people understand this. I do know about value engineering. I'm just saying that value engineering isn't always value engineering, because you might be able to save a few bucks, but on the other hand, you will actually add cost to the project because you go for bad alternatives with a bad quality. And that's not only a bad decision for your money, it's also a bad decision in terms of environment. Because, friends, remember, why are we facing a climate crisis? We are facing a climate crisis because we have created a resource crisis. We manufacture way too many throwaway products, then we throw it away, and we manufacture even more throwaway products. So the amounts of waste is ever increasingly, and we are using more and more and more and more of the natural resources, and we have to end this now. So if I was the Prime Minister of the world, I would have banned products designed to have a short lifespan tomorrow, no later than tomorrow. That's real action, because if we did that, I'm sure that the entire manufacturing industry would have changed direction and started by producing things with a long lifespan, things that can be repaired, circular products, etc., etc., etc. And that is how we change the world. So I'm not sure if that was an answer to your question, but I really encourage eco-friendly clients out there to, don't give up, because we are on the winning team long term. I know this for sure. In the future, people will not allow themselves to not choose eco-friendly alternatives anymore. But we are in this big transition now where a lot of things is changing, and I really hope it will change faster than now, because we have to speed up if we are able to stop and halt climate changes before 2030. We have 10 years left now, and as I said, there is way too much talk. We need more and real action.
Somebody's just voted for you for a world prime minister. I'm going to steal just two more minutes, Jan Christian. I just want to say one thing. You empower your staff to say no to commissions that don't meet your standards on homeless spikes and benches. You empower your staff to work hard to find that extra 10% to keep innovating. Can you give some guidance to leaders out there who are trying to inspire their staff? How do you motivate and kind of create that passion and culture? I mean, you're obviously very motivating yourself, but do you have any advice?
Yeah, thanks. It's also a great question. I don't believe it's very difficult, because it is about following your heart, doing the right things. And if you're doing the right things, you get people on board the mission. And I also believe that it gives a lot of respect also internally in the organization when they're seeing that we are walking the talk. I mean, we are doing what we're saying that we should do. So, and I think that encourages a lot of energy, and it unleashes even more creativity in the organization, because they all see that we're part of something bigger. I mean, people on our team, they care about furniture because we're selling furniture, but the furniture is not the purpose itself. It's about what the furniture actually does, how we can use our furniture as a tool to bring change to the world. And I think when people actually notice and see that, okay, we are actually changing the world, we're not only pushing for sales and celebrating every time we have a great projects. We are doing projects we believe in, and we refuse to do projects we don't believe in, that doesn't bring the world forward. So do the right things. Believe that you can change the world, even if you're a small company. I mean, if a small family-owned company from Norway can change the world, all of you can change the world. And if I and we can get the bench and the factory to be kind of a symbol of changing the world, I mean, come on, then you can do it as well. So that's the second thing. The third thing, use the global goals. I mean, the sustainability goals, the 17 goals, is a great framework to make this very concrete and specific and easy to follow and easy to track and trace. And if you choose to go with one of the global goals, 9 of them, as we did, or all 17, doesn't matter as long as you start somewhere. And I think if you have progress every year and that you can actually see a positive development, that brings even more energy to the organization. And remember again, it's all about purpose. We all need a purpose in our life. We all need something to tell our kids, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends, our beloved ones. We need to have something bigger to tell them. So if we can give them a mission and give them a purpose and get people to believe that they are in this mission for the greater good, I think we can achieve whatever it is. And as I said in the beginning, when my grandfather established this company, he said that everything is possible for the Lord Almighty. We don't speak so much about the Lord Almighty and the mechanic anymore, but let's say we still believe that everything is possible. So thank you.
Thank you again, Christian, and thank you very much, Viktoria Millentrup. It's been a hugely inspiring talk, and I want to take a moment to thank you for Vestre for supporting the Festival of Place as well and allowing us to create this platform to share this message, to bring people together and to get them inspired and motivated, because we can do this, but we have to do this together.
Thank you, and great work, all of you, great work, and I really hope we can meet. I mean, you have done the best out of it this year, digital, and I really hope we can meet again next year. We should keep the faith now and still be optimistic. And I think we forgot to tell them, Viktoria, that you are all invited to visit the Plus when we open next year. Please bring everyone you know, and yeah, you're welcome.
I can't wait. The camping in the woods with a factory.
Hooray.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, big emoji applause. And we are back at 2 o'clock with Natasha McIntyre Hall for a conversation about Portsmouth. So join us then, and the pineapples this afternoon. See you then. Goodbye.